Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to continue talking about Revelation today. As you know, I have been talking about me memorizing the book of Revelation, and as I've also explained to you, I've now finished that. I'm now going back and getting it down a little deeper, moving it from level 3 to level 4 to level 5, where I really have it. But in the meantime, I'm continuing to get Revelations. I plan to make a DVD called Revelations on Revelation, but we're not taking any pre-orders until I actually make the DVD. However, and I'm still getting a lot of really good revelations, but I don't want to get into all of those revelations, but I do think it is important for you to understand as much about Revelation before you get the DVD, because I'm sure once you understand really what's in that DVD, when I explain it, everybody's going to have it. I mean, I think it is going to be one of the most important works of my 24 years of being in the ministry. So hopefully you would believe me and get that DVD. But in the meantime, I think it's important that everybody understand the basics of Revelation, the things that I'm not going to be talking about. At least right now, I do not think I'm going to have time to go through teaching all the way through Revelation verse by verse all again. So, I mean, the Revelations is not going to be teaching Revelation verse by verse. It's just going to be on the Revelations. So let me explain to you what I'm about to do. I'm going to take the next several broadcasts and I'm going to play a large portion of the DVD, Revelation verse by verse, basically giving you a lot of information because it's important for you to understand that information so that you can understand the Revelations on Revelation DVD when that comes out. Because, I mean, if I say, well, let me tell you who the two witnesses are, and I start going into that, and if you aren't familiar with the scriptures already, it's going to be, well, you're going to be playing catch up, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. The next several broadcasts, I'm going to be playing the audio of the DVD from my DVD, Revelation verse by verse. I think it's very important that, of course, you listen to the broadcast, but even more important that you get the DVD. So we are making probably the best offer on that particular DVD set that we have ever offered. I'm looking up at some of the past offers. We have, first of all, it's 8 hours, 4 DVDs, valued at $120, and in the past we've offered it for a gift of $75. We're going to offer it for an amazing offer today, for this particular week. First of all, the topics. What is the message of the 7 churches? Who are the 4 horsemen? Is Revelation layered or sequential when it goes through the seals and the trumpets and the vials? Is it 1 through 21, or is it like a 3-layered cake where 111 plays about the same time as 222? I answer that. Who are the beasts from the sea, the earth, and the pit? What does is fallen mean? What does it look like the day Jesus returns? How long is the day of the Lord? Is that a year, a month, 1 evening, 1 morning? What is that? Who is the woman who rides the beast? Who's the false prophet? Does the New Jerusalem come down at the end of 6,000 years or at the end of 7,000 years? When do we get our mansions? Are there 1 or 2 judgments upon America? When is the door shut to the 5 virgins? Does everyone who survives Armageddon get a glorified body? 2/3 of mankind is killed in the tribulation. What happens to the other 1/3? Again, 8 hours, 4 DVDs. Normally, well, it's valued at $120. In the past, we've offered it for a gift of $75. But today, this particular week, we're going to be offering it for a gift of just $30. $30, Revelation verse by verse, and Revelation verse by verse. And you can go to prophecyclub.com and order it, or you can call us, 785-266-1112. Now, let's go on over to me going through Revelation verse by verse in the DVD. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Now we're at the 7th trumpet. Revelation 11:15, and the 7th angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So this is at the very end now. And the 24 elders, which sat before God on their seats, fell upon their faces and worshipped God, saying, we give thee thanks, O Lord God Almighty, which art and wast and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power, and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come. And the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, at them that fear thy name, small and great, shouldest destroy the earth, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of God was open in heaven, and there was seen in the temple the ark of the testament, and there were lightning and voices, thunderings, and an earthquake and great hail. Revelation chapter 12. Now, we have just finished the seventh trumpet. We've just finished the third woe. Now, Revelation 12. This is giving you an overview and helping us to understand this. Revelation 12:1, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman. Who's the woman? Woman in Scripture is the church, sometimes referred to as Israel, but it's normally the church. In this case, it's Israel. A woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Well, what is that? That is a star configuration that happens once each year. Probably it was possibly associated with the birth of Jesus. Why? Verse 2. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. Now, this is actually the star configuration, the head and feet, but we'll move on. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her son as soon as it was born. Now, what's this saying? I believe this is time past, where the devil deceived a third part of the angels, and they got cast to the earth. Then it went on to say, then the woman is ready to be delivered. In other words, Jesus is ready to be born. And the serpent tried to devour the child. In other words, this is, for example, when Herod was trying to kill Jesus and commanded that all the children 2 years and younger were all killed. But of course, that didn't work. Revelation 12:5. And she brought forth a man-child, that would be Jesus, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. That's Jesus in the millennium, when we rule and reign with him. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. And the woman, now who's the woman there? That's Israel, but I believe it's also Christians. Many people have asked me, where is the city of refuge? In other words, where's the safe place to go to experience the tribulation? And I said, well, actually, every believer has exactly the same place to hide. And the answer is in the will of God. Okay? But now physically, I actually like Hawaii. I fell in love with Hawaii years ago. But in answer to your question, that's not really the best place to go, because the Bible does say every island will flee away. So what's the best place to go? Jeremiah chapter 51, verse about 50 says, let Jerusalem come into your mind. I'm going to cover that in just a second. That's probably the best place to go. I mention it here because it says the woman fled into the wilderness. You see, in the middle of the tribulation, when the Antichrist sits on the Ark of the Covenant, commits the Abomination of Desolation. When he does that, Matthew 24, Jesus speaking said, when you see the abomination spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, then basically run to the hills. Don't come down off the housetop to collect $200 a pass go or pack or do none of that stuff. Run for your lives. Where do they run? I'm going to explain it in just a second. That's what it's referring here. The woman fled into the wilderness. I believe that those people that have the testimony of Jesus and keep the commandments of God will flee into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God. In other words, a special place of protection in the wilderness. Now, when we hear the word wilderness, where was the first time in the Bible we begin to hear about the wilderness? That would be in the Exodus. And that's what this is referring to again. The same wilderness. Today we don't call it wilderness. Today we call it the desert. Where she hath a place prepared of God, whither should feed her there 1,260 days. How long is 1,260 days? That's 3.5 years. Okay? Now, let me bring the scriptures up I was just talking about. Matthew 24:15. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, let him that be in Judea, that is southern Israel, that's in the Jerusalem area, flee into the mountains. Then Daniel 11:31 is talking about, and the arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. In other words, when he sits on the Ark of the Covenant, he will pollute the sanctuary of strength. And that's when he takes away the daily sacrifice. And they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. He sits on the Ark of the Covenant. And then Daniel 12:11 says, and from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, that's referring to him sitting on the Ark of the Covenant, and also the image that he sets up. The image speaks and causes all people, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand. There shall be 1,290 days. What did Daniel 12:11 just tell us? Look at it. From the time that the daily sacrifice be taken away, and on that same day, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. What did he just tell us? From the time the daily sacrifice be taken away, in other words, when he sits on the Ark of the Covenant, when the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. What did he just tell us? Yes, that is the third time I said that. I see some people kind of looking around. I believe that it's telling us when Jesus returns. In other words, when we see the abomination of desolation, the Antichrist set on the Ark of the Covenant, we can put an X on the calendar, and 1,290 days later, Jesus returns. Now, why is it we can't know the day or the hour? Because the earth is turned upside down, the sun has gone out, the moon will give light, the stars won't withdraw their shining, and so all reckoning of time is gone. However, I believe we can know the year. I believe we can know the month. We might have a pretty good guess at the week. And if we knew the time, we would be able to say, well, it's got to be within some 24 to 48, 72-hour area someplace in there. But again, no one knows the day or the hour because all reckoning of time is gone. But Daniel 12:11 is telling you from that moment how long you have till Jesus returns. He didn't say it directly, but indirectly that's what he's saying. Revelation 12:7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and prevailed not, and neither was their place found any more in heaven. Now, I believe that's the angels were cast out. However, I believe that the devil is in heaven even as we speak. He is the accuser of the brethren, as I'll read for you in just a second. And the great dragon was cast out. That old serpent, yes, he was cast out, but I still think he somehow returned. I'll show you why the scripture says that in a minute. Cast out, and that old serpent was called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. This happened a long time ago. However, there is a time that he is cast out for good, because the devil knoweth that he hath but a short time. Now, here's why I say he must be there now. Revelation 12:10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Now, we've read back in chapters 1, 2, and 3 about overcomers. Everybody wants to be an overcomer. Lots of blessings to be an overcomer. And I've spoken in front of a lot of groups of people, and I'll ask them, how do you want to be an overcomer? All the hands go up. And I say, what are the requirements to be an overcomer? Oh, you got to be overcome by the blood of the Lamb. Somebody else says, by the word of the testimony. Yes. And there's this blank look across the whole congregation. And what is that third thing? And it's a funny thing. Nobody can tell me, or very few people can tell me, that third thing. Because they don't want to think about that. And they love not their lives unto the death. See, in order to be an overcomer, we have to have the testimony of Jesus. We also have to have his blood, and we have to give our life for him. Revelation 12:12. Therefore, rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down to you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Well, I believe that he cometh down about the middle of the tribulation. That's the reason he inhabits the body of the Antichrist and sits on the Ark of the Covenant, because that's when he sits in the sides of the north. Because until then, he stands before the Father day and night accusing the brethren. So yes, they were cast out, but apparently he was allowed to return. I don't understand all that. I'm just giving you Bible. If you got a better understanding on it than I do, then fine, great. As you recall at the beginning of this, I reserve the right to change my mind based upon additional information. And I'm finding additional information every day. Revelation 12:13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast down under the earth, he persecuted the woman. That's the people that saw the saw the Antichrist set in the Ark of the Covenant, that ran for their lives, ran south. I'll show you where that is, of Jerusalem. He persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. That's Israel that brought forth Jesus. Now, where do they move to? I believe that this is where they go. If you'll see Jerusalem in the center upper right of your screen there, then because they were in the wilderness, I believe that they will return to the place where Moses got the Ten Commandments, and that is going to be Jabal el-Lawz or Mount Sinai. That's 218 miles south of Jerusalem. Why do I say that? Exodus 19:18 says, and Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace. I'm going to show you the top of Mount Sinai in just a minute. You'll see it is dark. Exodus 19:4, you have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you up on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. We've read other scriptures. We're going to read here about how God brought on two wings of an eagle. So once again, we see scripture repeating itself here. Revelation 12:15, and the serpent cast out of its mouth water as a flood. In other words, as people go from Jerusalem down south here, just like you remember the Pharaoh said against Moses, he said, oh, they've caught themselves basically dead-ended against the Dead Sea. Well, they didn't understand that God was going to open up the Dead Sea the very next day. The serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. So who is that? They keep the commandments, have the testimony of Jesus. So they are running south. All of a sudden this great flood comes. Now, this is a picture of us when we were in Israel, and I wish I had turned around and taken another picture, because what you would have seen is two mountains where the water comes rushing down off of these mountains right down. This is really a wadi. That's what they call it in Israel. We would call it a dry riverbed. What they're walking on here is actually a dry riverbed. And if you can try to imagine trying to escape, could you climb? If you look at those walls, can you climb up those walls? The answer is no, or certainly not very easy. Maybe some of the young folk that are really strong might be able to get up some of them, but there's a great flood coming down there, and it would wash away many of Israel. So try to imagine thousands, maybe even a couple of million people, well, maybe not that many, but maybe 1 million people that have run and left Jerusalem, that saw the abomination of desolation, that knew Matthew 24, Jesus speaking, said this, and they left Jerusalem, they ran south to Jabal el-Lawz, and as they're going down there, this great flood comes, but the earth opens up and swallows the flood, and I believe that is what it's talking about. Revelation 13, one of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible. All right, it is now time to buckle your seatbelts, put your seat backs in their upright and locked position, because we're about to take off. Revelation 13. To prepare us for what we're going to do. What is a crown? A crown is blessings, authority, and kingship. Genesis 49:26 gives us the definition. You see, the King James Bible has a built-in dictionary. Every time you find a word in the Bible, you want to know what the definition is. If you'll look up and find the first time that word is used in the King James, you'll find it also gives a definition for it. So in this case, what are we trying to look up? We're trying to look up the word crown. Genesis 49:26, the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, that means ancestors, unto the uttermost bounds of the everlasting hills, shall be upon the head of Joseph, and upon the crown of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. Crown of the head. Now, keep that in mind. Horn. What does horn mean? Genesis 22:13, and Abraham lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering unto the stead of his son. Horn. Exodus 11:29. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it had been testified to his owner, and he had not kept him in, but if he had killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner shall be put to death. So we see the first instance is in horns was Genesis 22. Here the ram was caught by his horns. Now this is a reference, I believe, which is a great teaching, which I'm going to avoid right now, how this ties back to the thorns that Jesus wore at his crucifixion. But horns here is talking about, it refers to when Isaac was about to be killed. So horns has to do with strength and with death. Exodus 21:29, this is when an animal uses his horns to kill. So horn means ability to kill, whereas crown means blessings, authority, and kingship. Now remember that. That's going to be important in some of these next verses. Now, what does head mean? First time we find head in the Bible is Genesis 2:10. And a river went out of Egypt to water the garden, and from thenceforth it was parted, and became into 4 heads. So heads can mean land. It can also mean the head of the land, or kingship. What are wings? Exodus 19:4. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings. This is the first time the word wings is found. And brought you unto myself. So this wings here is talking about land. All right, now, since we know that crown is blessings, the authority, and kingship, and horn is the ability to kill, and head or wings can either one of them be land. Now keep that in mind. Now let's go into Revelation 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. The sea here is talking about people, the nations. And I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. In other words, I'll put it in my own words just a second. Rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, here's the way we would say it. I stood upon the sand of the sea, I stood upon the people, and I saw a world government rise up out of the people, based upon 7 continents that have been divided into 10 global regions, and upon his horns, or upon each global region, there is 1 crown. 10 global regions, 10 crowns. And upon his heads, the name of blasphemy. What is blasphemy? It comes from 2 Greek words, means to attack God. So here's what it's saying. I saw a world government rise out of the people, out of 7 continents, divided into 10 global regions, each global region having a ruler that blasphemes God. Got it? That's what Revelation 13. So, Revelation 13:1 is the rise of world government. Now, why is that important? See, if you don't understand Daniel, you can't understand Revelation. If you don't understand Revelation, you can't understand Daniel, which is why, let me just throw in a commercial here. You should get my new Daniel verse by verse, which I'm going to be making here in a couple of months. This is Revelation verse by verse 2.0, the second version of it. I'd recommend you get Daniel verse by verse 2.0, and it'll explain all of this for you. Now, in Daniel chapter 7, verse 6, it gives 4 beasts. And I think I'm going to be able to explain this here in just a second. But essentially, there's 4 beasts. Now, without going into stealing the thunder, because we're going to get to a graphic on that in just a second, you can't have the fourth beast until you have the third beast. Does that make sense? Okay. You can't have a home run till you have touched first and second and third base. All right? So you can't have the world government until you have beast number 1, beast number 2, beast number 3. The problem is we are not at beast number 3 of Daniel chapter 7:6 yet. I'm going to steal the thunder. We're going to get there in a second. So let's continue. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was likened unto a leopard. Well, where have we heard of a leopard before? That would be Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and his dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, let me look here. Yes, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. In Daniel chapter 7, the four beasts are, first one is the lion, and it has eagle's wings. It is the English lion. Coming out of England was the American eagle. So the first beast is England and America, meaning the lion and eagle's wings. The second beast is the Russian bear. It had 3 teeth, 3 ribs between the teeth of it and the mouth of it, and it said thus unto it, arise and devour much flesh. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to interrupt right there, but I do encourage you to get this. As I said, I'm going to be making a new DVD called Revelations on Revelation. And in preparation for that DVD being released at some point in hopefully the next few months, it's important for you to understand the basics of Revelation because I'm not going to be covering that in that new DVD. This is going to be totally new information. I'm not going to be covering Revelation verse by verse. In preparation for the new DVD, I recommend you get this DVD, Revelation verse by verse, if you don't already have it. 612 slides, 212 pictures, 10 charts. You will thoroughly understand Revelation in preparation for the next one on Revelation. It's 4 DVDs, 8 hours, valued at $120. In the past, we've offered it for a gift of $75, but today you can get it for a gift of $30. 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Revelation verse by verse, 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. It's going to be really, really good. I recommend you get it. Thanks for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Lindsey Williams has just come out with his newest DVD titled How Trump Changed Elite Plans. How Trump changed elite plans, and he did. Topics: be prepared to view the most shocking DVD I've ever made. Nothing like this has happened in 6,000 years. Something catastrophic is beginning to develop. It will change your life forever and the life of your children and grandchildren. This is the most important information I've ever given about the future. Called How Trump Changed Elite Plans at prophecyclub.com. Available for shipping now. Brian Melvin did an excellent job making this DVD called Hell in a Box and From Hell to Heaven. Excellent talk. I've heard about 30 some odd talks of people that have passed on, some to heaven, some to hell. This is one of the best ones. This held my attention all the way through. Now look, just as archaeology can be really powerful to win people to Christ, and you need that. You need this DVD in your hands to show people this will convince people. I'm saying this will convince the skeptic to get saved very powerfully. You want this DVD and this book, Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven, and the book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion. DVD gift of 30, book gift of 20, both for a gift of 45, prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. The Hell gift offer. Keep them out of it with the Hell gift offer. prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112.